The courtroom is filled, but everyone's attention is focused on one table. Decades of lies, secrets, and secret agendas are about to meet in a manner no one anticipated. Today is not just a family conflict, it's a day of reckoning when each skillfully concealed truth will be exposed, and the pretense of control starts to unravel. What is it like when loyalty, betrayal, and long-seated secrets finally come before the eyes of the world? Every second matters. Stay with me because this tale will have you doubting all you believed you knew about the sister wives. The doors to the courtroom open, and the silence that follows is nearly reverential. Kody Brown sits at the defense table, his expression calm, but tension emanating from him is impossible to miss. Across the room, Christine's gaze locks with his in a silent intensity, years of hurt and betrayal festering just beneath the surface of her serene facade. The judge slams down the gavel, and the density of decades-spanning secrets settles across the room like a heavy fog. Every witness, every camera, every hushed voice senses the weight of what is to come. Christine's lawyer stands, opening a thick folder packed with carefully tabulated evidence. Bank statements, personal texts, and images are bared like a blueprint for manipulation and domination. Kody squirms uncomfortably, casting a look at Robyn, whose composed facade hides a maelstrom of nerves beneath. Tension crackles through the room as the trial's first witness is called to the stand, a sister wife whose quiet strength is poised to shed years of hidden facts. She starts to tell of subtle manipulations that left psychological wounds rather than physical bruises, choices made without input, sneering whispers that questioned her own sanity, and tiny but relentless shots at her ego. Each sentence falls with impact, shattering the meticulously crafted veneer of domestic bliss. The courtroom leans in, captivated by a tale of power, manipulation, and lying that reaches far beyond the reach of any TV camera. The tension is palpable, and what's to come next will make everyone wonder about every single decision that's been made in secret. As testimony goes on, the story turns to financial management and nepotism, creating an image of a family living by rules known only to a select few. Christine listens, correlating patterns of dishonesty, while Kody's efforts at calm crumble with each disclosure. The force of the evidence, emails, texts, receipts, is overwhelming. Each corner of the room seems electric, as though the walls themselves are hearing the disclosure of decades of deception. Witness by witness, layers of detail build, the manipulation of mind, the selective memory, the image carefully kept up. Each tale chips away at Kody's authority, laying bare how appearances were kept up at the cost of honesty and trust. The audience can all but sense the tension encircling each word, every hesitation, every change in tone heightening the drama. And just when the storm appears in hand, a letter appears that turns it all upside down, contradicting every account Kody has given for years. It's an email, explicit and intact, in stark contradiction to what Kody has said before. Gasps circulate the courtroom. The judge adjusts spectacles, eyebrows furrowed as the burden of truth becomes clear. Christine's serene face remains resolute, yet an inner satisfaction emanates from her, a sense that the truth is beginning to find its voice. Kody and Robyn share uneasy glances, aware this moment reveals not only previous choices, but also the essence of control they've depending on for so long. The story intensifies as the courtroom is filled with the weight of years of underground power struggles. Every testimony, every memory, every witness presentation adds to the intricate picture of a family system that was constructed on manipulation and tests of loyalty. The audience can sense the tension mounting as each secret has the potential to bring down decades of painstakingly built facade. Before the next explosive detail comes out, be sure to tap subscribe to Sister Wife Daily Scoop, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. What would you do if you were standing in their shoes? The courtroom appears to be holding its breath as the next witness is about to come forward and reveal how emotional manipulation merged with financial control, leaving deep scars on the whole family. Each anecdote heightens tension, each hesitation heightens suspense, and the audience sits on the edge of their seats, aware that nothing in this family will ever be the same again. Taut courtroom lights now appear unkind, casting dark shadows that stretch out across shiny wooden benches. Kody rests back ever so slightly, attempting to conceal the tension creeping into his stance. In the distance, Robyn's fingers drum against her knee, and with every drum her anxiety betrays her and refuses expression. The witness, a woman who has seen the inner dynamics of the family over the years, advances, her eyes unwavering, her voice firm but charged with emotion. She describes the immeasurable times when control was subtly exercised, not by confrontation but by withholding, by suggestions tactfully placed, by silences more potent than words. Decisions regarding finances, family priorities, even the smallest family celebrations were all intricately planned to keep Kody's narrative intact. Each move, each response, each surreptitious instruction is laid bare like jigsaw puzzle pieces that nobody had any idea were there. The air in the room is stifling, as if the walls themselves are privy to the duplicity that has been sustained over decades. The reality starts to break the surface, and the audience senses the burden of each secret ready to implode. Christine observes with stoic intensity, her hands clasped together, heart settled but thoughts whirling. She sees the familiar forms, the strategies she lived under for years, the hint of control, the undermining of her confidence, the meticulously constructed facades for public consumption, all revealed now for the world to witness. Even the fleeting glances passed between Kody and Robyn reveal the tension beneath their serene exterior. Testimony turns to moments of emotional manipulation, the loneliness, the covert threats, the insidious ways in which trust was undermined over time. The witness describes how loyalty was insisted on as a test, how questioning was constructed as betrayal, and how obedience was rewarded and independence punished. Each piece of information creates an image of a system constructed not on the foundations of family ties but on domination, and the audience seizes the full force of what has been concealed for so long. Each disclosure comes like a sledgehammer, and the question hangs: who will hold out against revelation, and who will break under the pressure of reality? A hush descends as the witness presents a set of documents, letters, journal entries and photographs that openly contradict public narratives delivered on television. The courtroom bathes in the evidence in stunned silence. Faces strain, eyes open, and the subtle quiver in Kody's hands is finally apparent. Robyn's jaw sets hard as she knows that decades of carefully constructed appearances are falling apart in plain sight. Christine's lawyer questions the witness with accuracy, each reply stripping away another layer of falsehood. The audience is now able to realize the extent of control over the family. Child-rearing decisions, financial decisions, and even freedom choices were all manipulated in a way meant to support a single narrative of authority. Each sentence uttered, each document discovered, makes the grip of suspense tighter, making everyone wonder about the very ground of the family they believed they knew. And just as the courtroom comes to settle, a new discovery strikes, one so intimate, so crushing, it has the potential to redefine everything everyone believed they knew about trust and loyalty. The private letters are read aloud, describing incidents in which emotional abuse crossed with financial exploitation. Needs were deprioritized among children, personal choices were restricted, and insidious psychological coercion was enforced under the guise of family cohesion and religious direction. Every sentence gives off the shockwave-like impact, and the audience can nearly sense the tension unspooling tighter with each new sentence. The story accelerates as the attention turns to how these manipulations impacted interactions between the wives, and between parents and offspring. Every small argument, every scripted apology, every withheld explanation was all part of a greater pattern, one intended to keep control while appearing harmonious. The emotional tension is oppressive, and tension in the room is almost suffocating. The courtroom is hushed, but the tempest is only just brewing, and the next bombshell will touch no relationship untouched. The judge leaned in, his eyes on Kody as the witness presents proof of the deliberate alienation of members of the family who had dared to challenge authority. The audience can sense the weight of each accusation, for they realize that the rules were never equal for everyone. Each confession, each secret unmasked, each held back tear is a testament to the bravery of those who are able to speak, and a harsh echo of the price of decades of domination. The air is dense with emotion in the courtroom as the next witness stands. Janelle's eyes well up with tears, her hands shaking minutely as long-suppressed memories threaten to overflow. She starts to tell the sensitive art of being a sister wife, always walking a tightrope around Kody's changing demands, and attempting to hold on to her own identity. Each choice, each compromise, each silent accommodation unveils a web of control that is insidious and claustrophobic. As she testifies, the camera sweeps to Kody, seated stiff, mask of calmness slipping with each sentence. Robyn observes from the sidelines, face studiously neutral, but the flash of tension in her eyes betrays the effect of Janelle's testimony. The courtroom itself seems to close in, the walls closing in as the gravity of years of manipulation is made palpable. Each whispered revelation, each murmured conversation, each unspoken rule laid bare. Janelle describes the ways in which personal agency was slowly eroded in the name of loyalty to family. Every ask challenged, every aspiration gently dissuaded, every feeling diverted to serve a story she didn't author. The audience can almost sense the invisible shackles binding tighter, smothering as the methodical domination plays out like a well-rehearsed play. With each disclosure, tension builds. How can one live love, honor, and survival when each move is watched and critiqued? Christine observes silently, her own past moments flashing with Janelle's speech. She remembers the covert struggles waged over freedom, the insidious manipulations that made her question herself, the image of the perfect family that masked a maze of dominance and expectation. Kody adjusts in his seat as the pressure of attention starts to bear down on his well-rehearsed calm. Robyn's is breached for a moment, just long enough to show that even those who appeared unassailable are fallible when the truth comes out. The witness starts to bring in particular incidents, meticulously documented facts that reveal how financial choices were used as tools of control, how emotional withholding was a tactic, and how the actions of each family member were invisibly yet relentlessly steered toward the purpose of one narrative. The courtroom is a stage of suspense, each word bringing us closer to a coming judgment. And just when the audience believes they know the dynamics, a secret betrayal is revealed, one that has the potential to break trust in ways no one could have predicted. The testimony turns to the relationships between the children and parents. Decades of quiet control, subtle omission, and skillfully constructed reward and punishment are exposed. It is apparent that the home was not only ruled by authority, but by a system of influence honed to a precise science to mold views, conduct, and allegiance. Each utterance in the courtroom serves to reinforce the tenuous balance of loyalty and fear that has ruled the family for generations. Janelle's voice breaks as she describes a time when a small uprising by one of the children was answered not by direction, but by deliberate intimidation. The audience senses the intensity, the raw emotion, the weight of having grown up in a world where every move was policed and every allegiance tested. Christine leans forward just a little, her own heart closing at the echoes of things she knows all too intimately. The psychological toll of these disclosures is crushing. Who will endure the revelation, and who will crumble in its light? Proof keeps piling up: letters, texts, and recordings countering public images, illustrating the clear-cut disparity between show and actuality. The courtroom takes in the evidence in silent awe. Angles harden, brows shoot up, and even the judge's usually stoic face reveals a flash of shock. The story is no longer one of family drama. It's one of the complicated, sometimes callous system of dominance and manipulation that has dictated every exchange. As the session comes to a close, the witness makes the most powerful revelation to date, an act of betrayal so profound that it undermines everything audience members had thought they knew about loyalty, family, and power. Viewers are left wondering, can any relationship last when they are subjected to such constant scrutiny? Or is the system only set up to ensure control? The courtroom descends into deep silence as the next revelation starts. Mary moves towards the witness stand, her body taut but her gaze keen, carrying memories that cut deeper than one can ever imagine. She speaks of instances when alliances were broken like sand beneath her feet, where trust was a commodity, and betrayal depended on the timing alone. Each sentence she utters holds the burden of years spent walking the tightrope of relationships that were never equal. Kody's demeanor is starting to break. He sits forward slightly, clenched jaw, eyes flicking as if attempting to predict the next blow. Robyn's hands are crossed, knuckles pale, as if attempting to anchor herself against the whirlwind of facts unfolding before them. Every new discovery comes down like a hammer blow, compelling every single person in the room to face the unspoken realities they'd been avoiding for so long. Mary remembers insidious manipulations that made her doubt her own judgment. Little things: broken appointments, tactfully phrased remarks, and calculated silences were all intended to destroy confidence and impose obedience. One can almost sense tension tightening, the press of emotional manipulation weighing down as if the room itself were alive with the echoes of past battles. And just as it appears that the truth has revealed all, a stunning revelation comes along, one that will redefine the limits of loyalty and trust. She presents evidence of dialogue and personal correspondence that lay bare the internal processes of the family's power structure. Each interaction, each choice, each meticulously crafted public narrative is examined, laying bare the laborious manipulation behind what appears to be everyday occurrences. Christine sits in silent intensity, seeing patterns she lived through for decades, as the viewer experiences the emotional significance of years of covert control unfurl before them. The session turns to highlight emotional manipulation, revealing how guilt, fear, and obligation were used as weapons of compliance. Every wife, every child was covertly conditioned to sublimate Kody's account over their own. The viewers are immersed in the psychological front, seeing the overwhelming pressure of existing under constant observation. With each disclosure, the question becomes inescapable: how can one regain control when every move has been tracked, every utterance analyzed, and every emotion manipulated? Mary describes particular instances where public appearances hid private unrest, where smiles before the camera hid inner conflict, and where allegiance was called for without reason. The courtroom digests the richness of these descriptions, tension thick in the air. Faces contort, eyes flash, and even the judge inclines forward, aware of the richness of the system being exposed. The attention is drawn to the children, whose voices were silenced within the staged family drama. Signs of emotional deprivation, intermittent attention, and deliberately controlled affection emerge. Every piece of information adds to the tension, pointing out the reach of control beyond the adult relation. Christine's piercing stare never faltered, joining the dots that the audience can now track in stark detail. Just when the drama is at its height, the secret partnership is unveiled. Someone who'd been observing in silence, waiting for evidence to accumulate, now emerges to reveal a breach of trust that nobody expected. The court observes in shocked silence as evidence is presented. Letters, tapes, and eyewitness accounts that strip away the public persona years of construction. Each deception, each omission, each manipulation is methodically unraveled, with no corner left unexplored. The impact of decades of control is rendered concrete, tangible, and inescapable. At the end of the session, a silence falls over the room. The testimonies of the witnesses have exposed a world of sly cruelty, calculated deceit, and emotional manipulation, leaving one and all inside the court and outside to struggle with the implications. The audience is left to wonder who will make it through the unraveling, and who will be destroyed by the very system they had been safeguarding. The courtroom is abuzz with barely contained tension as the next series of testimony gets underway. Christine stands up, her stance relaxed but firm, the weight of decades of observation carved into each line on her face. She addresses words of careful precision, sharing instances where manipulation was masked in affection, where control was veiled as concern. Every sentence serves to pull the audience in further, peeling away the layers of deceit that have dictated this family for so long. Kody leans forward in his chair, jaw clenching, fists balled. Each word Christine speaks is a blow to the nerve, showing fissures in the tightly constructed veneer he has shown the world. Robyn's eyes dart nervously, conveying an unvoiced acceptance of facts she cannot dispute. With each confession, the tension thickens like the air itself is suffering years of subterranean tension. Christine remembers times when money was used as a weapon of compliance. Small choices, presented as inevitable or generous, were actually deliberate actions to manipulate access, condition behavior, and impose allegiance. The audience starts to understand the extent of strategic manipulation, the insidious but constant pressure that remade lives without making evident impression. She progresses to emotional manipulation, how the weapon of guilt was used, how apologies were called for but seldom authentic, and how love might disappear with the snap of fingers if not performed to expectation. The psychological burden of such testimony bears down not only on those in the courtroom, but on the audience themselves as they find themselves hypothesizing through a similar web. Every detail reveals a hidden truth. Survival required compliance, but compliance came at the cost of personal freedom and authenticity. Christine addresses the issue of secrecy in the family. Some decisions were made behind closed doors, circumventing those who were most impacted, leaving wives and children to wonder about reality itself. Each disclosure puts the scope of Kody's control into sharp relief. How information was screened, stories carefully constructed, and opposition subtly repressed. The viewer experiences the tension of a family hostage to unseen forces, where love and fear are inextricably entwined. Robyn fidgets in her seat as Christine describes the techniques used to sustain illusions. False smiles and fabricated harmony concealed personal upheaval, and the family became trapped between pretending for the cameras and living in their own household. The stress to adhere to a created image grew greater, establishing a tenuous equilibrium that could be broken by the slightest shock. Christine presents records of communication that reveal concealed agendas, demonstrating how alliances were realigned and loyalties tested. Each disclosure depicts a home where trust was situational, and affection could be used to assert dominance. The audience experiences the full force of strategic manipulation, knowing how subtle domination can create lasting psychological wounds. As the episode builds to its climax, one final alarming revelation is revealed, one that will destroy the painstakingly built-up illusion and confront every expectation the audience has had up until now. Christine writes about the critical moment at which a long-buried secret is revealed, laying bare the complexity of manipulation that had gone unnoticed to the public. The children, having been quiet witnesses, are now at the center of uncovering the family narrative, their truths underpinning what had once been invisible. Kody's cool facade crumbles, his well-guarded control starting to disintegrate under the pressure of truth. The courtroom is charged with tension, all eyes on the thread of the unfolding story. Bonds that were believed to be unbreakable show cracks, alliances change, and the viewers are left wrestling with the emotional aftermath of lies and betrayal. Each new discovery is a lingering question: can the family ever trust one another again, or has the trap of manipulation been so woven that it cannot be unraveled? As the episode comes to a close, Christine's testimony paves the way for an in-depth look at consequences, with the audience left with a strong emotional hook and a burning need to know what happens next. Sister Wife Daily Scoop is curious. What would you do if you discovered something that changed everything you thought you knew about your family? Comment below and share your thoughts. The courtroom air tightens as Christine takes the stand once again, her eyes scanning the room with quiet intensity. Every movement, every pause holds weight as the audience senses the gravity of what is about to unfold. She sets out to describe episodes in which trust was used as a weapon, acts of kindness were done as tests, and loyalty could be rewarded and punished with equal accuracy. Every sentence she speaks cuts through the deliberately fostered construction of family peace to reveal the complex psychological web that has ruled their lives. Kody fidgets uncomfortably in his chair, his normally stoic mask slipping as Christine speaks of events that demonstrate the extent of his manipulation. Robyn's fists clench into white-knuckled balls, eyes wide with horror at the testimony of secret machinations she could do nothing to stop, nor comprehend fully. The room is tense. Every gaze in the courtroom is riveted on the unveiling of a tale long closely guarded behind the closed doors. Christine explores the emotional manipulation more deeply, writing about times when apologies were made but never intended, when affection had conditions placed upon it, and when silence held unspoken punishment. She tells of small actions, deceptive words, expertly crafted commands, and intentional omission that slowly manipulated perceptions and insisted upon compliance. One can almost sense the burden of living in a space where each word, movement, and emotion was picked apart and dictated. Next is a revelation that creates a shockwave in the courtroom. A string of messages and private recordings comes to light, revealing clandestine alliances and betrayals nobody saw coming. These messages unwind the behind-the-scenes maneuvering of family politics, illustrating how each interaction, each choice, and each public outing was orchestrated to advance one narrative alone. The extent of manipulation is unbelievable, making people wonder how anyone could remain sane under such constant control. Christine's voice becomes stronger as she recounts experiences in which the children were used as pawns, their innocence being manipulated to promote obedience and loyalty. Every anecdote sketches a bleak picture of a home where love and fear were braided together, and where the price of independence was tactically paid in emotional currency. The audience is aware of the crushing effect of this reality, sensing the stakes in an intimate and disturbing way. And just when it appears the reach of control has been laid bare, a further betrayal is revealed, one that rocks all the family presumed about loyalty, trust, and deceit. The courtroom is in shocked silence as Christine presents proof of a secret alliance within the family, which shows a scheme to keep control that even its nearest members do not know about. Faces become stern, eyes bulge wide, and the atmosphere thickens with anticipation. This twist shatters all that viewers believed they could see, laying bare the extent to which manipulation has determined every relationship, every decision, and every action in the family. The emotional tension builds when Christine describes battles which were hidden from the world for years, now exposed in raw detail. The audience senses the heartache, the rage, and the frustration as long-suppressed realities are laid bare, revealing the remarkable strength needed to endure under such duress. Kody's calm still begins to unravel, his efforts at maintaining control foiled by the determined revelation of his masterminding grip. With every new revelation, the stakes are higher. How will each emerge unscathed, and whom will be destroyed by the weight of knowing? As the session nears its end, Christine doles out the most biting observations so far, linking prior betrayals, manipulations, and lies to a broader scheme of psychological domination that has characterized the family for decades. The courtroom is hushed, the audience entranced, and the tension hangs thick in the air, leaving everyone clinging to see what the next episode has in store. Sister Wife Daily Scoop wants to hear from you. Who do you suspect will emerge strongest as the truth keeps surfacing? Leave your theories in the comments below. The air in the courtroom is heavy with expectation, every gesture heightened under the searing glare of both audience and judge. Christine sits forward a little, her words careful but laced with emotion as she describes years of insidious manipulation and calculated dominance. Each sentence rings true, laying bare the manipulation of a family system based on obedience, terror, and deliberately constructed fiction. The audience senses the burden of history bearing down on the room, as if all those secret conversations and secluded choices are now laid open before them under harsh illumination. Kody's face furrows, minute movements betraying his increasing agitation. Robyn fidgets next to him, her fists crumpled in her lap, tension and guilt suffusing her features. Each discovery feels like a bolt of lightning, compelling even the most controlled to finally face the reality they've been avoiding. Christine recounts times loyalty was turned into a weapon, how ordinary-sounding directions or domestic choices were actually calculated actions aimed at solidifying authority. The reader senses the intricacies of relationship living where each decision had repercussion, and where emotional attachment was used to preserve domination. There follows the bombshell. Long secret communications emerge, laying bare hidden alliances and intentional disinformation that went unnoticed for years. These accusations bring home the ways in which manipulation spread beyond the immediate family, reaching extended relatives and close friends. The audience is pulled into the maze of secrets, betrayal, and calculated deceit that has characterized all aspects of the family's existence. As tension builds, the emotional stakes grow higher. Trust becomes a slippery, ephemeral thing, and all characters' real motives are thrown into high relief. Christine moves on to financial manipulation and strategic withholding of information, demonstrating just how power was enforced not only with emotion but with deliberate economic influence. Each transaction, each choice, each withheld document is a fragment of a larger picture, demonstrating just how deeply Kody and his closest members had entrenched themselves in power over resources and perception. The kids, whose words had been delegitimized for so long, are essential witnesses. Their testimonies demonstrate the insidious but destructive power of psychological manipulation. Terror, uncertainty, and bewilderment, mixed with the natural love that children have for their family. The audience feels this burden directly, empathizing with the price of growing up in a home where reality is always up for debate and control is complete. And just when the courtroom is convinced the extent of manipulation is outed, a surprising betrayal is revealed, one that changes allegiances and redefines the power structure altogether. Christine details an intimate confrontation, previously unshared, in which one of Kody's closest family members directly challenged his account, threatening banishment and isolation. The surprise rings out throughout the courtroom, seemingly invincible alliances are broken and the viewers hang in suspense as to what will follow. Each movement, each look, Each hesitation is underwritten with the possibility of revelation and disagreement. The session builds to a flash of intense emotional force. Christine speaks of the inner turmoil of those trapped between loyalty and truth, fear and bravery. The audience experiences the burden of each choice, the tension of deciding between truth and conformity, and the toll on the heart of living out years in deception. With every moment that passes, the question looms heavy: who will take back their power, and who will be destroyed by the very institution they previously served? The courtroom is hushed, tension almost electric in the room, as the proceedings draw to a close, leaving all in suspense, desperate for answers. Christine's evidence has methodically pulled apart delusion, laid bare secret truths, and unveiled a web of control that few could have conceived. Sister Wife Daily Scoop would like to know: what do you believe will be the reaction when these secrets blow out into the wider family? Post your guesses in the comments below. The courtroom is nearly intolerably charged as Christine is set to give the last round of testimony. All eyes are on her. Each breath seems magnified, and the burden of decades of secrets hangs heavy over the room. The air vibrates with anticipation, knowing that what happens here will determine the family legacy of the story for years to come. Christine recalls moments of supreme treachery, choices made behind closed doors that altered family configuration, manipulative machinations, and hidden coalitions that few could have foreseen. Each new revelation smites with emotional accuracy, as the audience struggles to reconcile shock, sympathy, and incredulity. The art of manipulation, previously in plain sight, now stands nakedly visible for all to see. Kody's facade crumbles even further, his cool on the verge of collapse as the burden of exposure imperils decades of skillfully crafted power. Robyn's face is a cross between defensiveness and resignation, her awareness that the cloak of secrecy has been rent asunder. The children, seeing both falsehood and truth, at last have their voices heard, their histories no longer silenced or distorted. Christine delves into the last pieces of evidence, illustrating how control was exercised not just emotionally and financially, but psychologically, through fear, obligation, and strategically crafted narratives. Every detail reinforces the scope of the deceit, leaving the courtroom and audience in stunned silence. The scope of manipulation, once intangible, is now irrefutable, and the ramifications cannot be overlooked. And then there is the turning point: Christine and Kody's explosive confrontation that brings years of stress, pain, and underlying reality to a head. The words are cautious, but laced with emotion. Eyes say more than words. The tension is a blend of relief, outrage, and unavoidable reckoning. Each nuanced gesture, pause, and emotional cadence is a testament to the richness of the battle for control and the strength of those who have endured it. With the emotional intensity of the climax, the audience experiences the entirety of the drama: the freedom of the truth, the falling of illusions, and the onset of new dynamics that will forever alter the family. Christine looks back on the result: the validation of the children's accounts, the downfall of Kody's constructed authority, and the dawn of individual freedom for those who had been silenced for so many years. The courtroom has seen more than evidence. It has seen change. Relationships that had appeared irreparably damaged now have the potential of honesty, based on openness instead of domination. The episode concludes in a moment of still, unspoken intensity, a silence during which the weightiness of all that has been revealed can sink in. Christine's words are left hanging unanswered. The history of the family is one of not only manipulation in the past, but of empowerment, responsibility, and choice in the future for each of its members. Sister Wife Daily Scoop would love to hear from you. Do you believe the long-term effect of these revelations will be to leave an indelible mark on the Brown family? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. As the courtroom clears, one truth is irrefutable: honesty has torn down what deceit constructed, and the fallout of these disclosures will reverberate far outside the courthouse walls. Families, audiences, and viewers are left to ponder the immense power of truth, the price of manipulation, and the potential for redemption when bravery meets candor. The book ends, not with closure only, but with the hope of new beginnings, the residual unease of unresolved questions, and the inexorable draw of seeing actual lives change with the impact of truth. The sequel, however, is yet to be written, and will be determined by those courageous enough to speak truly and live honestly, and the world holds its breath.